Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Girl Dad Show. I am super stoked to have David Walsh on my show today. He has been a force of nature that has just come into my life over the last year, and I'm just learning a ton from him, and I'm so excited to get to know him better in a different perspective. And without further ado, let me welcome David onto the show. And David, let us know a little bit about yourself.
Well, one, thank you, Young, and it's been a pleasure working with you on our latest adventure, which has been super exciting. So glad to be here today to talk to your audience. And just a little about my background. I'm a New Yorker. I've lived here pretty much all my life. Um, it's hard to leave. It's a little bit like Shawshank Redemption. In the yard, he says, these walls are a funny thing. When you first arrive, you
Yeah,
hate them, and then you learn to live with them, and then before you know it, you can't live without them, and then
live
you're an
without him.
institutional man. That's like New
Yep.
York. I'm at that stage where I can't seem to leave. I'm an institutionalized New York man. So, anyways, I got my
Yeah, well, you
start.
got the accent and everything, so yeah.
Yeah. So, um, by way of background, my my favorite thing until I got into working on Wall Street was running, and so that was something I enjoyed doing throughout high school and then in college, racing all over the time, and I still do. I still run and race and enjoy it a lot. And the reason why I mention it is that it really helped me a lot when I entered Wall Street with no experience, because running, you learn how to suffer. Long distance running, you just have to be very good at overcoming pain and remaining calm in uncomfortable situations. And it served me really well when I first got on Wall Street. I was in a it was the early '80s, and it was a pressure cooker Wall Street. And I started with a company called
Hmm.
Drexel, who had this meteoric rise and then crash and burn. But what I quickly learned is that people didn't care about your background, which school you went to. All they cared about is how productive you were. Could you excel? And if you were productive, then you could advance, and I mean advance quickly. And I ended up, as a young man, being running the technology, all the technology for the trading division of Drexel, which was an unbelievable experience. Just to be part of something growing really fast and to be part of technology on Wall Street. I just learned a ton. And that got me interested in technology. So I ended up,
Yeah, I mean,
yeah. So that got me interested in technology to the point
oh,
where
keep
I,
going.
I
Yeah,
went to
I
grad
was just gonna say, yeah.
I went to grad school at NYU, and so during the day I was immersed in technology. At night I was immersed in technology. I was just immersed in technology, and I learned so much so quickly. I was able to advance my career pretty fast, and went on to run technology at a big interdealer broker, and then the four commodities exchanges in New York, and then that led to me starting a couple businesses. One was a networking company called Voyager, and another one was a financial industry extranet called IXNet. Sold one to a strategic, took the other one public and sold it, and then got into the private equity uh, space and did that for many years. And now I'm off on my own doing my own deals. So that's kind of my background, and what keeps me sane is my family and my running, because it forces me to have some balance in my life. Otherwise, I just work all day long, and that's not a good thing. You have to find time to do other stuff.
And just so I know, like this is amazing, and I'm so excited to get to ask you all these questions because I've been dying to ask you, but it's been go 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 ever since we met. When did you start having kids during this process in your journey of all these business building experiences?
Yeah, well, me and my wife met on Wall Street. We were both in technology, and we 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 connected, and we decided to get married very quickly. Like I'm talking days, and then we waited.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, yeah, I know it sounds crazy, but it's that old saying, when you know, you know. And
Yeah.
but we did take a whole year to plan the wedding. I didn't really plan it. My in-laws did, and they threw a huge celebration, and it was amazing. But and Gia, my wife, who is 6.5 years younger than me, I was 30 when we got married, and she just thought it was a good idea to not waste any time, but to start having kids. I was a little unsure about it, but I had all the confidence that even though she was a lot younger than me, that she had the right instinct, and it was the best thing I ever did, to be honest with you, because um, I was able to do things because I was relatively young. I was able to do things with my kids that I wouldn't have been able to do had I waited another 10 years. So, for example, my daughter, my boys, I trained with them, got them ready for high school sports, got them ready for college sports. I mean, physically did their workouts with them. I was young enough to do that, and so I encourage anyone, um, have your kids early, and all your fears. Once the children are born, once you see that loving person in your life, the new addition, all those fears that you worry about, oh, can I manage it? It all goes out the window. It's replaced with this new love that's overwhelming. So, and it won't disrupt your career. It'll make your career better because it'll make you find some balance in life.
You think that's a critical factor in building business to your level of success?
I think two things. I think having something special in life to yourself, whether that's art or like a sport, and having a family. To me, I can't think of two better things to underpin a solid career. And there's,
Wow.
just a few decisions you have to get right, um, in life, that you really need to get right. One is, picking the right partner. Like that, this is an important decision, because my wife was always supportive of, used to have to travel, um, on short notice, and like all these sacrifices that she just have to work around, and she was very supportive of it. Never, um, every once in a while she would challenge me, do you really need to do that? But at the end, she was super supportive. Literally, when I would leave in the morning, she'd say, go make money. And that was, uh, it made me feel, okay, good. I'm not, she's behind me. She's behind my career.
Yeah. It's like motivating. It's like not only is she bought in, she's rah-rahing you to go.
Yeah, and she always wanted to know, unlike, I know a lot of um, couples who they're not really that involved in their career, but um, my wife Gia was always interested. There's not a day that goes by where she doesn't ask me, so how did your day go and what did you accomplish? And she's just super curious
Oh,
about what
wow.
I'm up to. Yeah, and she's a really good judge
That's
of,
awesome.
yeah, amazing judge of character when it comes to, and so much of building business is about, aligning yourself with good people. And she was just a great support factor in my business building. I don't think I could have accomplished what I did. In fact, I know if I hadn't had her guidance, she really steered me out of the, out of danger a couple times, and sometimes I didn't take her advice, and it usually wasn't. It turned out bad. Like, and so I really listen to what she has to say, out of self-preservation. So, um, Yeah, so that's a good,
Yeah.
yeah, having a great partner in life, boy, is that important. And having children if you can, not unfortunately not everybody is blessed with that, but if you are, take advantage of it. It'll just make your career better.
That's really interesting for you to say that because there's so many entrepreneurs that I interview on this show that, try to like stagger the two things apart because, building a business is so time consuming. It's like having a kid. And, having a kid is obviously having a kid, and that's also very time consuming. So for me to hear you say that is really interesting. And it almost sounds like you feel like that's the underpinning. It actually makes it worth it or makes it even more valuable to do that at the same time. But that's a really unconventional piece of wisdom that you're parlaying here.
It provided more motivation and reward. I'll give you a simple example. When I took my company public in 1997, my kids, all three of them, they were tiny, little kids. We're all riding in the limo. We're standing together at the Nasdaq podium, and we still talk about that. And like that's an experience like I'll never forget. One of the most special ones is for them at that age to be able to be part of my business life. And so, um, yeah, like I said, it's just having kids early. I think it it feels like maybe that's going to conflict. It just doesn't. You'll find a way, and it'll give you a motivation. Like why are we doing this? Like we're doing this for our legacy. This business building stuff, right? We want to leave a legacy. Well, your legacy is your kids, so they're gonna. This business building is going to be part of their legacy. So to me, it just provided a huge amount of motivation.
It's wonderful. Yeah. And what do you want for your kids? Do you want them to continue on your path? And what does success look like for you now that you have adult kids and you've reached an unbelievable level of success from my point of view and my vantage point? I definitely look up to you and hope to aspire to be at your level one day. But I'm curious from your vantage point when you have adult kids like this, and what do you want for them? What does success look like?
Well, to me, success is I want them, and my wife has taught me this. I want them to have a a fantastic partner in life, and
Hmm.
and build a wonderful family. To me, that's the only thing that really matters. And fortunately, all my kids have my oldest, Andrew, who you know really well. He's married, has a wonderful wife, and he's got two kids. And he got started very early um,
Hmm.
with his kids. And he, naturally, that's always a little bit of a shock when you first realize, oh, I'm going to have my first first child. And I told him, I said, it's going to be the best thing that's ever happened to you. And and he had his kid, his first one, Sir Liam, who's such a special uh, little boy, and now Camille. But he, and of course, a couple years later, he said, Dad, you were so right. This has just been the best thing for my life. And my other two kids have wonderful partners. They're not married, but God willing, that'll happen maybe soon. And I'll encourage them to have their kids sooner than later. And but for the legacy, one of the things that I really was thinking about, you know, for the prior like 20 years, I've been in the investment space doing private equity and investing. And when you're sort of done with that, you're sort of done. You put down your sword and
Hmm.
you go home and I guess you retire. And well, my partners, and I've been really fortunate when working at OEP, um, they're mostly all athletes, a lot of world champion Olympic rowers. And so, athletes kind of think a lot alike. So, but none of those guys know any quit. They're many um, are older than me and they're still at it every day. Um, but you know, it's but I was kind of during COVID facing down this thing that said, well, wait a minute, like there's got to be something that continues after I'm done. So that's why we started Activate Growth Partners, because I want to leave something that continues, and I'm hopeful that my kids will be actively involved in that. So I was like, you know what? Um, I don't want to do another startup per se, like a tech startup, because I did a number of those. But I want to do a business startup that is going to have, is going to survive me. And there'll be a legacy that
Mm.
if my kids decide they want to be part of, they can. So that's what I'm trying to do right now, Young, is build that so that there's something here to continue.
It's amazing. I love the forethought and I love the intentionality of it. I think it's wonderful. And I just have to ask, and this is a little bit of a direct question here, but what if they don't want it? Would you be okay with that? Would you be okay
Yeah.
if they became teachers and I don't know, like they weren't
Uh,
entrepreneurs? Are you okay with that?
the only thing I really, like I said, I just want them to be happily married and have wonderful children and a great family. Like that to me, that's like 99%. And then the last 1%,
Hmm.
sure, I'd love them to be part of the business. I wouldn't be doing it if I didn't think there's a pretty good chance um, they would all want to be part of it. But at least, as long as one is in there, then that's great. But it's okay either way. But my gut tells me they're going to want to be part
Yeah.
of it because they're already have been actively helping me build it. Um, so it's great.
Yeah, that is great. And if I can ask, what does your wife think about this kind of new legacy building stage with the Activate? Is she on board with this as well? Still super supportive, or has she changed her in her latter years here, wanting to settle down or maybe take a break? What does she think about you continuing to work and just build?
No, she's very supportive. She loves, like I said, every day. Um, she wants to know, hey, what did you accomplish? She's like, I don't know,
That's
so
awesome.
it's really, yeah, it's even when she's not feeling well, she wants, she, she'll be laying down not feeling well, but she's feeling well enough to want to know, like, what happened today. Um, and the other day I was out to see Goldman. I think it was Wednesday when we had that crazy windstorm and rainstorm here. There's like 50, 60, 75 mile an hour winds on the waterfront.
Oh my
And I
god.
literally got blown. It was a half-mile walk after the meeting to the parking lot outside. And I was walking with another guy my age, and I was doing everything I could just to stay on my feet. And he just got blown right down. And I was like, what? What am I doing? Like, I could have probably rescheduled a meeting, but just like, no. And I get back, and I literally look like, and I dressed up because I was going to Goldman. I got the whole uniform on, right? Spit shine shoes, the whole thing. The three-piece suit, the jacket, the whole routine. I'm
I
telling
love
you,
it. Yeah.
after that walk, half-mile walk, I looked like I literally went through a car wash. And I come home, I'm completely disheveled. And she just looks at me, she goes, what happened to you? I said, I just got blown down the promenade on my way to Goldman. She goes, oh, how'd the meeting go? She just dismissed it. And so, yeah, it's funny.
It is awesome. Yeah. I'm actually curious how you guys got married so fast. How did you know? I mean, I know you said you know when you know, but I'm actually curious. Tell me how you knew.
Um, I think it really came down to one thing. She was the first, you know, woman. I had dated some really nice people. I was fortunate that way. So it wasn't like she was the first person I met, but she was the first person I met that I said, "Ooh, I could have children with her." Like
Oh, wow.
that I could have a legacy with her. It was just so clear, and I never felt that way before. I mean, she was beautiful, of course. Like um, my wife was stunningly gorgeous. Like when I heard rumors about her, because all these people on Wall Street were talking about her. Like, and then I met her. I was like, wow, now I know why everybody's talking about her. But it wasn't. That wasn't it. It was just once I met her, I was like, wow, there's just so much substance here. Um, I I I had this different feeling, like, oh, this is somebody I could have children with, and that really that was the that was the thing that made the difference
You just knew, and you just started pursuing her just immediately.
immediately. Yep.
Man, sounds like a business deal, like how you approach business, because you're kind of like that with business as well.
Yeah. When I don't take long to make a decision.
Yeah,
If I really feel, if I feel it's right, I go all in, as you know,
I
and
do know that. Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
yeah, and
That's incredible.
and so much of life, I think, is about, self-fulfilling prophecy. Things work out because you will them to work out. You have to go into things um, all in. Um,
Yeah, but yeah, and I also love that you have that mindset where you're going in knowing what you want and deciding that. But I also love that you alluded to the fact that you have endurance through running. And that parallel is really, really important, I think, to share with people as well, too, because I think a lot of people that are trying to build business while building family forget that, a lot of it is just being able to stick with it. It's like just stay the course. Sometimes it's not that fancy. It's just stay the course and just keep pushing.
Yeah, one thing that is also like when you're doing long distance running, inevitably at any kind of competitive level, there's times in the race where it gets really tough. It
Yeah.
just like it's physically, mentally grueling, and but if you can calm yourself down, um, you can work through these tough spots, and all of a sudden things actually get a little bit better. Um, and I mean, you don't get out of pain, but and businesses like that, often um, you're always coming against resistance, and a lot of times people just butt up against it, and then they just stop. But if you um, continue, like we use a term, me and a lot of my business colleagues refuse to take a knee. If you just refuse to take a knee, all of a sudden, wow, okay, I solved that problem, things get better. And probably the thing that um, you you have to do as an entrepreneur, and this is it's so much helpful if you can do it. Just imagine these people who set sail, you know, hundreds of years ago, right? And had, half of them didn't even know if the Earth was flat or round.
Yeah.
So
So many unknowns.
yeah,
So
so
many
many
unknowns.
unknowns. But business is a little bit like that. You can't see the destination. So most people never try to get anywhere.
Yeah.
But sometimes you can say, well, I can see this island. I'm gonna sail to that island, right? You get there safely, and then you say, oh, I can see another one, and I can see another. And before you know it, through these calculated sort of risks that were manageable, all of a sudden you get to your destination, and you could never see it
Yeah.
from the starting point. So you have to be willing to be adventurous and be a risk taker, or it's that just, I think, table stakes. You have to have that in your DNA, um, to give you, so that you can go out and do it.
Yeah. I have two very selfishly personal questions that I'd love to ask you. One is just more just because I'm just curious. And then the other one is more around being a good dad. So I'll ask you the dad one first. How do you think about teaching your kids that mindset, that ability to take those calculated risks and go for it without the unknown? And then how do you think about teaching them endurance? Because I think so many of our youngsters these days haven't learned that skill anymore. They don't have that perseverance. And so I'm really trying to make sure that I instill that in my daughters. And I'm just curious, based on what your experience has been, how have you found ways to teach your kids that?
Well, that's a really good question. And one thing I was mindful of, running is one of these sports that
Hmm.
you have to love to do, and you really can't push somebody to do it. So I think, other sports, tennis and baseball and basketball, all these things, you can encourage your kids. And so I never really pushed them hard to run, but I always showed them the opportunity to get involved with it. All three of them ran in school and throughout high school. My Andrew was more focused on lacrosse, but he still did run indoor track. Stephen ran cross country. My middle son, he ran cross country and track and indoor track, um, and he really enjoyed that. And my daughter, she started very young. She entered school, a year early. So, and she was a late maturer, so she was already running competitive cross country and track as a really young person.
Hmm.
And I remember, you know, trying to get her through. There's a maturity test you have to get through, even to be able to compete. And so that was always a challenge because she was so young for her age. But she really loved competitive running, and we trained, me and the boys and Veronica um, trained all the time. In the summer, Veronica and I would do training in the Hamptons in the Northwest Woods, which is these. Uh,
Sounds beautiful.
yeah, it's unbelievable. Because there's no sun because there's all pine covered needle.
Yeah.
All the pine needles soft on the feet. It's all shade. It's just quiet in there, and we would run in there all summer long. And then Andrew, of course, would be getting ready for Maryland lacrosse, and he'd have to get super fit. So I would be in there running with him. So I was mm, running all the time, even in the wintertime during breaks. I would be doing track workouts with Andrew and Veronica, and so we ran a lot as a. Actually, we didn't run a lot as a family as it would. Like we didn't all go and say, let's all group together and go for a run. But I ran and trained individually with each one of them, which was super special. And um, Veronica was the one that I thought it would probably go on and run at college. But by the time she had finished high school, she was like, Dad, I'm just tired of racing. And I can
Hmm.
relate to that. It's really tough mentally, physically.
Yeah.
And she goes, I want to go to college and enjoy myself. And I think she was worried to disappoint me because she had plenty of options to run at college.
Hmm.
But it didn't disappoint me at all. I was so happy that we had all those years together, training and running and going to meets, and we still run together now. So
Wow.
yeah,
That's amazing.
yeah, yeah, we do.
Yeah, so running is really helpful in teaching those moments of like pushing through and being able to be there when they're in pain and walk them through that process. That's really
And
clever actually.
yeah, and it's when you want to talk about alone time, it's so hard to really have alone quality time with anyone.
Yeah.
But when you're in the woods with your daughter, it's just you and her,
Yeah.
and when you're running, um, you're you do talk, but you're very efficient with your words.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
and your
you only
breath,
say
yeah.
things that mean something. So it's you you create a very different kind of bond,
It's
um,
amazing.
and I know I got that with my kids. Literally, like, with Andrew training for his fitness tests. I mean, these were grueling exercises we used to do together, um, and they were just, I'll never forget them. Like, there's such special times. And once
It's
again,
awesome.
I just feel fortunate that I was young enough that I could do it.
But it sounds like you're still doing it. It sounds like you're still running, and it's a great, it's almost like the thing you guys have your tradition. It's like your family legacy, and that you guys run.
Yeah, it's
And the
it's a,
parallels to business is incredible. I love the whole idea of like endurance and speak thoughtfully, conserve your conserving your breath, having to speak thoughtfully. It's all really clever. It's all really well aligned.
well, you know, my older brother Steve, he's a successful entrepreneur, and I remember I was working on Wall Street, for a few years, and I'm talking to this, and I started to make some money, and I was really excited, and he was doing well, and so he goes, "Can you believe how easy this is?" And I said, "What do you mean?" He goes, just to like uh, compete at work. And I goes, yeah. He goes, kind of think about it. He goes, business is like sports for adults. When you can't play competitive sports anymore, you play business. And we have been and competing in competitive sports since we were like 3 years old, and we got everybody outgunned. Like, we just got way
Wow.
more experience under our belt. And I like
Wow.
was thinking about it. I was saying, there's some truth to that because even when I'd have to work around the clock a couple nights, not go to sleep, this, that, and anything, that was nothing compared to having to run a
Yeah.
marathon and try to get through mile 21 to 23. I mean, it was still a walk in the park, you know?
Wow.
Everything
Yeah.
felt like a walk
Totally.
in the park. Other people were
That's
like, "Oh my
amazing.
God, this is terrible." I'm like, "What's the big deal?" We're not. He goes, we're not doing intervals. We're not like bent over on the ground. You know,
It's awesome.
this
Yeah. It's a really
is
good
easy.
point. Yeah, it's like conditioning. It's like the amount of pain that you can endure is like already so high because you've been doing performance training for your entire childhood. It's
Yeah.
wonderful. I do want to ask my other question. Then I have a bunch of rapid fire questions to close us out here because I want to be mindful of your busy schedule. But I am just like curious, like, how do you make a decision to go public versus getting acquired? I just have to know, like, why did you go public versus just selling it to a bigger strategic?
Well, I had two companies I started at the same time. One I did sell to a strategic, but the other
Mm-hmm.
one, um, it first off, it was growing so rapidly, and and it was an extranet, so it was like a Metcalfe's law, and it got like gravity to a point where people were getting sucked on, and it was just and all of our customers, all of them, whereas every known financial name in the world, like literally almost every trading floor in the world was connected to it. So
Amazing.
what a great story for a public company because it's servicing the industry. Like, the industry could,
Mm.
a lot of times, people, the financial industry that takes you public doesn't, really have a deep understanding of what you're doing. We were actually doing business with all of them.
Yeah.
So that was what, um, and
It
the
just felt
market,
right. Like it was like for the industry.
yeah, the
Yeah, and
market was
so
right at the time, and I think we were enjoying um, building it and wanted to continue to build. So that's why we went the public route, and it was a great experience.
do you recommend entrepreneurs to go that route? I mean, it sounds like it was more emotional and tied to the customer base than it was actually like for financial reasons. It was more just like that was the right decision for the moment because it served the community and it was with the community. But do you
Yeah,
recommend going public versus selling to a strategic?
I I don't think there's a one right answer there. I think it really depends on the circumstances. Things are different now, and maybe I'm just
Yeah.
older and wiser. But with all the regulatory stuff, and
Yeah.
it's harder as a public company these days than it was when I took my company public.
Hmm.
And I've been involved, I've been the chairman or CEO of multiple public companies, so I know, and I've watched this over the years evolve. It's less fun today than it was many years ago to be public.
Hmm.
I'm hoping that changes because I think that there's um, a lot of good things come out of our public markets,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
here in the U.S., it's really afforded um, America, a unique status in the world. So I don't mean to be down on it. It's just, you know, and
Yeah.
also I have to say there's so many other ways to get access to capital.
Hmm.
There's, the amount of venture funds and growth equity funds and private equity funds.
Hmm.
Um, when I was growing my businesses 20 plus years ago, 25 years ago, they're, you know, the lowest cost way, for capital at that point was the IPO market. So now there's
Yeah.
competing places to find capital, and
Yeah.
in some ways, running a private company, in many ways, running a private company is a lot easier. And
Yeah.
there's a big financial expense with being public, and there's a lot of effort around that
Hmm.
expense. So but I still, there's ringing the bell and that whole
Yeah.
it's a wonderful experience
Yeah.
for an entrepreneur to go through. So I wouldn't discourage
Absolutely.
somebody.
That's wonderful. Thank you for that. Thank you for that answer. Yeah, I've always been curious how you made that decision. And so I appreciate you sharing a little bit of that inside scoop. Just to wrap us up, I do like to ask rapid fire questions to all my guests so there's some symmetry to the interview. So I'll jump into that right now. If you could go back to yourself before having kids, so the David before pre kids,
Hmm.
is there anything that you would tell yourself?
Um, I think that I probably would I probably would have done it- you know what? I probably wouldn't have sold um, my the company I took public.
Hmm.
Like I think there was something, like we really got it right on a lot of levels, and that company would have just been it had legs for a long time.
Hmm.
It and so I think I got hung up on, we took it public and a strategic came along a couple of years later and, offered a very large number. And, it just, I think the number just like got in my head. Um, and so I shouldn't have sold the company. If I could do it all over again, I, that company, we should have just stayed there and worked it.
Hmm.
Because I think it was already an amazing company, had a great culture. The people were, I don't know, it's just
Hmm.
super young. And people didn't know what they didn't know, which was like a huge advantage. They didn't have limitations. So people were
Hmm.
just like doing amazing things. And so that would have been one thing. I really wish I held on to that because I loved the company and
Hmm.
I loved the people, and it was just rolling. But yeah, that would be
That's
one thing.
awesome. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, it'd be a very different. You'd be a very different father if you still had that company. That's for sure. That'd have been a very interesting situation.
Yeah.
Another question I have is, as you think about this chapter in your life and just being a dad and an entrepreneur, do you have different criteria for success that you didn't have previously that you be willing to share with us?
Yeah, I think that right now I'm happy to work as hard now as I did um, 30 years ago. Like
Yeah.
that just comes natural to me. So it's not like I think most people I know are like, well, I kind of frame my work life around, how much effort do I want to put in and all that. It's not an effort issue for me. I'm I'm now more careful. I should say careful. I'm more selective in the people. Like I
Mm.
really want to like the people
Mm.
that I'm doing business with, because it, all of these things are 5, 7 year adventures, or at least you have to plan. You have to assume they are.
That's right.
And I know everyone says this, oh, I got you pick your partners right and all this, but like just think about this. Do you know when a call comes in and you look down and it's somebody you just can't wait to talk to? I
Yeah.
want all my calls to feel like that.
Amazing.
Like I want all my calls to feel like when I pick up my phone, oh geez, it's Young's calling,
Yeah.
you know? And
Yeah.
and I before I get into things, I try to. I mean, and look, I knew the RevScale group for a long time before I formally got involved, and I
Right.
like everybody, and that's important when that phone rings. Um, if you can really look forward to wanting to have that conversation, then I think that's the area I focus more attention. When I was younger, it was more about, all right, what do I got to do to get, to make things happen, move things forward. I wasn't really zeroed in on the people. Um, I was more, did they have the capabilities? Um, but now I look at not just people's capabilities, but are they people that I'm going to enjoy working with?
Yeah, it's beautiful. I absolutely love that. And then just to bring us home, David, and then I'll let you get back to your busy day here. Do you have a favorite book or a book that has really impacted or influenced your life and kind of your trajectory that you could be willing to share?
A favorite book? Wow. Um, there's a there's a lot of books that provide great motivation, but if I had to say a business book, because if that's
Mm.
what we're really angling for here, because there's so many motivational books that are just
Hmm.
great. Um, but a business book that I found to be really good is Crossing the Chasm.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's a very technical book. I like
Yeah,
that.
but I tell you what, it is it everyone lives, is you die in that chasm.
You do.
You die
You
in that
do.
chasm, and there are, innovators and early adopters and early majority. They are different, and you got to move from one to the next to the next. And that book has really helped me a lot to understand whenever I'm in a company, like, where am I? Like, where the hell am I? And where do
Yeah.
I got to get? Where do I got to get? And that book just nailed it for me. And
Yeah.
I've read so many business books and I've taken little bits and pieces, but that's the one that's remained top of mind for me, um, in everything I do.
It still stays true to this day, even with all the SaaS software and all the technology innovations. It still stays true. I
100%.
mean, that's a
100%.
timeless moniker for how to jump those scale stages. Yeah, it's an incredible book.
Yeah. So I guess that one.
That's a great one. I haven't read that in like I want to say almost 14 years. I'm gonna go back and read that one. I'm gonna make the whole team read it.
You
Actually, I'm gonna get everyone. We're gonna do a book club and read it together because
want to hear
it's pretty.
something interesting about that is when I come across, and by the way, I'm not one of these people that reads, like, my daughter reads a book a week or something.
Oh,
Yeah,
jeez.
like incredible. And
Yeah.
and my wife reads a lot, but I'm not a super book reader. But when I like something, I I don't read it like 2 or 3 times. I read it slow because it's so interesting. And so I don't need to. I mean, literally, like, um, I know Crossing the Chasm, the book, like I read it yesterday, and it's probably been 20 years.
It's amazing. Yeah. I'm gonna literally make Andrew and Yubi read it together with me. That's a great book for us to be reading, especially right now. It's a great idea. I love it. David, thank you so much for taking time to be with me and share a little bit about yourself, and then let me get to know you a little bit better and ask all my questions and pepper you with my curiosities here. It's been wonderful getting to know you better and just hearing your stories. Thank you, and I hope you had a good time as well.
No, it was absolutely amazing, Young, and thanks for thinking of me when it came to the podcast, and more importantly, I'm just thankful that of our friendship and the business relationship that we're building. So this is great. So
Oh, thank you so much, sir. I appreciate you saying that. Thank you very much, and we'll talk soon. Okay.
you got it. Bye.